Welcome to House of Horns. My name is Victor Corona, aka Victor Producer, and joining me as always is Gilbert Manzano, Sports Illustrated staff writer there. Gilbert, uh, I had to double check to make sure we're in week 15 already, and
Yeah.
so we're previewing this matchup between the 6 and 7 Rams and the 4 and 9 Commanders. How are you doing? How have you survived 15 weeks of this
Yeah.
NFL season?
I'm doing well. I don't know why, but today I feel better than most Wednesdays. I don't play. I'm not on the injury report or anything like that, but sometimes Wednesday, like I feel because for me, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday are really busy. And then by Wednesday I feel tired because of work. But I don't know. I think I feel good today. Maybe the same way with the Rams. They felt like they were good in Baltimore. They didn't win the game, but they played their hearts out there in Baltimore 37-31 overtime. I still can't believe that game. I'm sure we're going to discuss it a little more, but yeah, for week 15, I think I'm, as football players say, I'm good enough because you're never 100% in the NFL.
Yeah, and talking about feeling good, I mean, I was expecting a long list of Rams injuries, but we don't have a lot to discuss in terms of injuries. We'll go over that. We have a lot to get to, Gilbert. I know as week 15, as we talked about, these are two teams that are heading in opposite directions, and we'll also get into why that is, as well as we preview this matchup. But we got a lot of stuff to get into as I've said. We'll do we'll do player matchups. We'll do what is it, keys to the game, and then we'll give our game predictions, Gilbert. But what else do we have going on here? We have an engagement question for the people, Gilbert, before I get ahead of myself and ask you about what's going on around the Compas on the Beat network. So go ahead and what is the engagement question for our viewers and listeners?
Yeah, and first of all, if you're watching live, don't be shy. Drop a comment. I know sometimes people are kind of, behind on the live and we might miss a comment or two. We try to get to them after we're done recording, or maybe we'll catch up. The live stream are sometimes a little off, but we're not ignoring anybody. We will encourage more people to drop comments and join us during this discussion here to break down, like Victor mentioned, Rams versus Commanders, week 15 at SoFi Stadium. But yeah, don't be shy. Drop a comment. Somebody be first, and don't be last. There you go. And then the engagement question of the week. It's oh yeah, it's the final month of the regular season, down to 4 games. So I ask you, the listeners and viewers of House of Horns, what should the Rams improve? What should they focus on, prioritize in the final month of the regular season? I put final month here. I couldn't fit regular season because there might be longer than a month, might be 6 weeks, might be 7 weeks. Who knows? The Rams are playing that well, but obviously special teams was a sour note in Baltimore. Do you want to see him focus on special teams? That kicker, Lucas, he figured it out though. They weighed Mason Crosby. I don't jump in the gun here, but maybe
Yeah.
you're okay about special teams, maybe not. Maybe some coaching with game management. Don't burn the final timeout in the final drive of the regulation. Uh, Maybe you want to see better from the defense. Maybe they got exposed in your eyes after what happened in Baltimore. Maybe you want to see them run the ball a little more, use Kyren. Whatever you could think of, let us know in the comments right now. What should the Rams improve in the final month? And I know we're doing these shows live now for the preview. We haven't forgot about you, the audio listeners of House of Horns. If you're on the audio, whenever you get a chance, get to YouTube, drop a comment, and let us know your thoughts here for what the Rams should do in the final month of the regular season.
Yeah, there's a lot of things. I know I posted the question to the community on Monday and asked, what has Sean McVay done the best job of his coaching career? And there was a lot of comments that said no. So I know one place that I know one place that I'm sure a lot of Ram fans think that he that needs improvement, and that's probably Sean McVay's coaching, which is, I don't blame them for saying that, but I also, it's kind of hard to not say that it's been a really good coaching season for McVay, just because not a lot of was expected of this team. But Gilbert, what else can people check out around the Compass on the Beat network?
Yeah, and I know we could talk about it later on, but I think that's a good topic because I feel like McVay has done a good job to reinvent this offense, this team. let Raheem Morris do his thing. But it's a young roster. Mistakes were going to happen. But I get people being frustrated about not getting the call in, headset issues, all that. But we'll discuss it in a bit. But some quick promos here. Something that the Rams fans might be interested in. We're trying to give away a Puka Nacua jersey here at House of Horns. But the catch is we're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. We're like at 746. A little bump last week. People were excited to watch Rams versus Ravens preview show. So that was pretty cool to see. But let's try to get to 800 and then make our way to 1,000. But once we get there, we're gonna give away a Puka Nacua jersey. Up to you on what color you want. I know there's a debate of which Rams color scheme jersey is the best one or outfit. Uh, you decide that. You could decide the size, but first you got to win it. And the way to win it is keep watching the show here. If you're hearing me right now, you're doing a great job. Good start. But later on in the show, we're gonna drop keywords. So when you hear the keywords, like last week, we had a send Puka to the Pro Bowl. So when you hear the keywords for this week, drop a comment, and we're gonna lock you in for an entry to possibly win a Puka Nacua jersey. You want 2 entries. Mark down the time we drop the keywords. Send me an email. Victor, you can pull up my email here. Before audio, Gilberto at compasonthebeat.com. Gilbert with a no at compasonthebeat.com. Time, keywords, 2 entries, or just simple right here in the comments or even in the live. Last week dropped in the live show, people dropped the keywords too. So don't be shy. Let us know. And we're trying to give away this freaking jersey. I want to get there sooner, but
Yes.
746 is not too bad for subscribers right now.
Yeah, we're around 200 and 60, what is it, 64 now that we need. So if we can get there in the next couple months, that'd be great. So we can give away the jersey. I don't. We should, hopefully we don't have to wait till the off season to give it away. Hopefully it's during a playoff run for the Rams. So, all right, Gilbert. Let's get to the Rams and Commanders news and notes. If we don't have anything else that we need to get to.
Maybe one thing, yeah. But if you've been hanging out with us for our looking ahead show where we discuss
Oh, there.
the games of the week, this week we're gonna do it on Thursday. I know we're going back and forth from Wednesday to Thursday, but there's an intriguing game for people in LA, and not for Rams fans, but for Raiders and Chargers playing on Thursday night. We thought it'd be kind of cool to do a show after that, do a recap, and then go into the games of Week 15. But don't worry if you don't care about that game. We got you covered for Rams versus Commanders, and we'll probably do something special next week, next Thursday. Rams Saints. Victor and I got to discuss it. But these Thursday games are kind of throwing us off a little bit because they're LA based. But yeah, just check us out for Thursday. We're gonna drop all the knowledge of the other games in the NFL tomorrow for Thursday,
Yeah,
whatever day you're
yeah.
watching it.
Yeah, the looking ahead show. I mean, it's we've gotten a lot of Ram fans on there as well as the one that we do for the Lunes Live, where it's you and Fernando. I know people have been asking about me. I'm like, I'm not in the on that show, so it's you and Fernando for that one. But you guys do talk Rams on there, especially now that they're doing a lot better. I think people wanna comment and give their takes on what's going on with the Rams. All right, Gilbert, let's get to uh, the the Rams and Commanders news and notes, plus the injury report for both teams. Uh, just right off the bat, the Rams plays tight end Hunter Long. I feel like we haven't even seen him at all. We saw him for one game, it seems like, and he was part of the Jalen Ramsey trade. And then long snapper Alex Ward, which I think, talking about special teams earlier, that's a big loss. I mean, losing your long snapper to injure reserve is going to be huge. So they signed long snapper Carson Thinker. And then I'll go quickly through the injury report as of Wednesday, as we're recording here live. The You have Tutu Adwell on concussion protocol, and Rob Havenstein with the groin. He did not practice. They did not practice. You have uh, Tyler Higbee with the neck, Ben Skoranek with the ankle, Michael Hoyt with the knee. They all were limited on Wednesday, and then it was good to see Quinn Lake with the hamstring have a full practice today, so he should be ready to go on Sunday. So no Puka, Cooper Kupp on the injury report, so that's good to see. And then the other thing, Gilbert, that we need to discuss, and you brought it up, Mason Crosby was cut on Monday, a week after being signed to the active roster. Then they promoted him to the active roster. Then they made him inactive for the Ravens game. So
Yeah.
all that just to cut him, just because Lucas Haversick is now the kicker for the foreseeable future. After a great kicking performance on Sunday in the rain, he connected on 3 field goals, including 2 extra points. So, what are your thoughts here with the kicking situation?
Yeah, maybe it worked just kind of having Mason and Crosby hang around for a week. I don't know how much he earned in that week. A good amount of thousands of dollars, and hey, it was worth it for the Rams because it kind of sent a message to Lucas and hey, you better start making these kicks. You better show your leg strength, show us you're reliable, and going out there in kind of cold, rainy conditions in Baltimore. These kicks were not easy. Was there like a 51 yarder in there? I forget now. Took him to overtime with I think a 36 yarder. So, hey, he proved himself that day, and it worked out. So why keep another kicker? Maybe if he struggles, bring back Mason Crosby. But for right now, whatever they did last week worked. It worked, and he's doing well. And if you have a reliable kicker this time of year, it just makes all the difference in the world. Like we see with the Cowboys with Brandon Aubrey just drilling kicks after kicks, 59, 50, 60 yarders, whatever it is. So it's crucial. And then the other injuries too. Hopefully Tutu Atwell is okay. He's a big part of the piece here. I know he's not having like a big time year, but I think he's still an important wide receiver. But for the most part, the injury report at this time of year is not as bad as others.
Yeah, and with Tutu Adwell, I mean, since Cooper Cup came back, I think he hasn't had as much run. He had, I think, one target against the Ravens before he left the game with the concussion. And then Rob Havenstein, I mean, he left the game. I think it was like in the first or second quarter. You had Newsom come in. Was it is it Newsom or what is his name? Number 70. I'm like blanking right now on
Oh,
his
Nopum, Joe Nopum.
Joe No Boom. Yeah, he came in and he did a great job in the run game. I And then there wasn't a lot of yeah. I think if I'm not mistaken, I'm trying to remember. Matthew Stafford was only sacked once. I don't remember him being sacked more than
I could pull it up
once.
right here. I might have been like, yeah, maybe once or twice.
Twice, maybe
Let me
twice,
see.
but I mean that's been
Yeah,
really
twice, 2 times.
twice, 2 times, yeah, and then, he was clean the game before that against the Browns. That was really impressive. And then just one last note, Gilbert, Los Angeles and SoFi Stadium were awarded Super Bowl
Oh, yeah.
61 today by the league. So that kind of sets up a 3-year run for SoFi, where they're going to be hosting the World Cup, the Super Bowl, and the Olympics, which I think is pretty cool for the city of LA and SoFi.
Yeah, I think it's very cool because it's our backyard or hometown or home area. But I know some people are not big fans of LA as a stop because it's just so spread out. There's not like a cool vibe like in Indy. People like it for the combine because it's right there. The stadium is right next to all the bars and all the restaurants, and everybody's hanging out in this few block radius. So LA, there's just too much to do. You can't even figure out what to do. Obviously, we all love the options, but it just doesn't feel like when you're coming in as a tourist, it can feel like overwhelming. Like, what the heck do I do now? You tell me I got to drive from the convention center to go to practice way over here or way over there. Then the Super Bowl over here. So it's kind of like that. But I've heard worse stories for the one in
Yeah,
Santa Clara the year
same.
before. So it's going to be Vegas, New Orleans, Santa Clara, and then LA. But people really hate the one in Levi Stadium. And I think that's why they haven't had a Super Bowl since 2015. And that's a new stadium. So LA is doing better than that. But I know people are kind of like New Orleans is better. We like them. Obviously, Vegas is good. Phoenix is good too. But uh, I like LA. I'd rather have a lot of options and a nice, it's not a cold city. So it's okay.
Yeah, I know. The one in the Bay Area with Santa Clara, I've heard a lot of
Yeah.
complaints. I know as soon as all the NFL reporters that I saw on my timeline were all complaining. It's like, really, we have to go there because you're getting shuttled back and forth, and it's, I understand. I know fans don't care about that. It's like, who cares about the reporters? But before we move on to Rams and Commander storylines, Gilbert, just a little fun thing here. The last time the Rams and Commanders played each other, they were the Washington football team. They had Jared Goff as their quarterback. They had Darrell Henderson as their running back. So there's a lot of. It's been a while for these two teams to square off, but and
What was it,
then
like 2020 or something?
it's been a while. I mean, yeah, it was probably 2020 at this point, or 2019. But it's
Yeah,
it's
I
it's
haven't looked it up.
yeah, it must have been 4 years ago because these teams are usually facing each other every four. Uh, Here we go. We have some comments here. We got Johnny G. His Rams are gonna put 50, and I
Oh,
won't say it. I'll just
yeah.
say on the Washington. And then you got Alonzo, back-to-back years of 49 home stadiums, hosting the Super Bowl. Seems unfair.
Yeah, nice one, Alonso. He's a good friend of the show and 49ers fan.
There you go.
Johnny
Well,
G and Alonso should hang out sometime.
yeah, we welcome all fans on here. So whatever you guys are rooting interest, but we're here to talk about this preview, Gilbert, between the Rams and the Commanders, and then one last tidbit before we get into storylines. The Commanders are the fifth and final team that the Rams will face this season, coming off a bye. The Rams are 1-3 against those opponents. So they beat the Browns, but they lost to the Cowboys, Steelers, and Ravens. Do you remember any time a team having to face five teams coming off a bye in a season?
No, that's like a weird wrinkle there, and I'm sure it came up during the schedule release, and but yeah, it's really bad as we keep going and going. It's like, what, again, 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 again. Johnny G says Rams will win the Super Bowl in Levi Stadium, so that would be what, 2026? Yeah, hey,
Yeah,
they got time.
2026.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll see. We'll come back to this comment here, but and also speaking of other years, I looked it up. The Rams and the Washington football team did face each other in 2020. So I guess they were the Washington football team for like 2 years. I thought it was like 1 year, but because they were the
Yeah.
Commanders last year. So all right, I actually like the name Washington football team. I hate the Commanders name, but whatever. Maybe they'll change it again with the new owner there. And what were we talking about before that? I already forgot. Before Johnny
No,
G.
we're going the all the buys about
Oh
the
yeah, the
fact
buys.
that the
Yeah, that's annoying. Like I know people always kind of focus on the traveling and things like that, and when you get your bye week, but like facing that many teams off a bye week, and that's why the record is what it is. But yeah, because you're getting people's best, or they're preparing for you for 2 weeks. Guys are getting healthy and rested. Yeah, it's always like the resting could be in there, but no, you rather have the rest and then take your chances on the other on being rusty because fatigue and injuries definitely pile up during the NFL season.
Yeah, and especially this late in the season, that gives the advantage to your opponent. The Rams got a bye week a couple weeks ago, and you've seen the difference that it's made for them. Winning 3 out of the 4 games since then. But at the same time, having a Commanders team and a Ravens team back to back coming off of buys is a disadvantage for sure. But at least you get the Commanders at home here. You're not having to go on the road to the East Coast. So that's a good thing. All right, Gilbert, let's start off with the Commanders. What are their storylines this season?
Well, first of all, last week I made people wait 57 minutes for the Puka Nacua jersey giveaway keyword. So right now I'm just gonna drop it before we get to the storyline. So Victor, let me know what it is. There you go. Cup is back, and Cooper Kupp, he didn't really go anywhere. He was just very quiet for like a month or 6 weeks, whatever it was. But that's the key word for the week. Cup is back. Great game last week against the Ravens, a pivotal catch on the final drive to send it to overtime. He really stepped up. So hopefully we see more of that for Cooper Kupp. Got a touchdown too. Uh, so that's why keywords. Cup is back, and to see him do that. So comment right here, even if you want on the live, you do it on the live. I've learned how to figure out how to bring back the live comments on the video, so I don't have to like write them down on my phone as they come in. But if you want to get an entry to the Puka Nacua jersey giveaway, just type it in the comments right now. Cup is back, or you're watching the replay, just type it in. Cup is back. Send me an email too with the time and the phrase, and you get 2 entries for the Puka Nacua jersey giveaway. Gilberto at compasonthebeat.com. Gilbert with a no at compasonthebeat.com.
There you go, guys. Make sure you're locked in there and you're getting your entries in because we really want to give away this Puka Nakua jersey. All right, Gilbert.
Yeah.
Let's get to the Commander storylines.
Yeah. Besides having a terrible name, Commanders, and I always see people saying like, "Oh, ready to take command" or things like that, play on words. But yeah, do better with the name. And but the biggest problems for the Commanders is their terrible, terrible defense. They are probably the worst defense in the
30
NFL.
second. So you go from playing the second
Oh
best
yeah,
defense to the 32nd last in the league
yeah.
defense.
They're in terms of yardage, they're leading the league in that. They're a little better against the run, but they're definitely the worst team in the NFL against the pass. They're allowing the most points in the NFL. I think last time I checked was 30.4, 30 points allowed per game for this defense. They have no pressure because they traded edge rushers Chase Young and Montez Sweat at the deadline. They just gave up on 2023. I don't blame them. I was trying to see if their draft class has done anything. Not much. The first round pick, I think, is like a third stringer right now. The cornerback, Forbes. What is that the name for the Commanders? Yeah. I was reading a different word like in Spanish, but that's not a bad name too. But I won't say what it was in my head. But yeah, they need something better than Commanders. They need help defensively. Maybe Johnny G and Alonso could play edge rusher for the Commanders because they're not getting any pressure right now. So if you have Cooper Kupp, Kyren Williams, Puka Nacua, anybody on the Rams roster, Matthew Stafford, and you're in the fantasy football playoffs, I'm not. I'm still mad about that. But if you are, or even consolation matchups, start every round that you have because this team allowed back-to-back 45 points and against the
Dolphins.
Cowboys and the Dolphins. In the last 3 games, they've allowed more than 31 points. So, one funny stat: the Rams have scored 31 plus points the last 3 games. The Commanders have allowed 31 plus points per game. So, and then the other thing, they're gonna fire Ron Rivera probably at the end of the year. He's a good guy, but struggling as a head coach. So, all bad. Pretty much, just to say it plain and simple, you cannot lose this game. If you're the if you're the Rams trying to make it to the playoffs, you better dominate against the Commanders.
Yeah, and Johnny G says this game is going to be like last year's Christmas game
Oh,
versus the Broncos. I think they put up 50, right? The Rams against the Broncos on that Christmas day. I know my memory is getting worse and worse as I get older, but I'm pretty sure they put up around 50 points.
they were on Christmas, right?
Yeah, it was a Christmas Day game. It was the
51-14, yeah.
yeah. There you go. So it should. I'm with Johnny G. You should be able to put up that many points, especially since you just came off of you've been scoring over 30 points for the past 4 games since you came off a bye. So this is a get right game for you against
Make
the
it
Commanders.
45 points. I want to see the Commanders give up 45 points in 3 consecutive games.
Yeah, and I mean, if you have, as you said, fantasy players, which I do, I have Kyren Williams in the league. I have Puka and Cooper Kupp. I'm starting them. I'm starting everybody, like even Haversick. That's the
Yeah,
game
that's
that
true. Get
got
get the
Nathaniel
kicker too.
Hackett fired. Yeah, I remember that too. Yeah, that was crazy. I remember we you had the. I think they won 2 in a row, if I'm not mistaken. The Rams did, where they beat the Raiders on Thursday night and then they beat no, it must have not been back to back, but they won like 2 out of the 3 games there, which I think that was like even though they weren't going to get a high pick, that was pretty bad to see in terms of getting a higher second round pick, but it would all worked out because before I get to the rounds, and it'll be something for me for storylines that I'll talk about, which has to do with their draft picks. Um, in terms of the Commanders, I just you brought up Ron Rivera and the fact that he's probably getting fired. You also have Eric Bieniemy. I just think there's a lot going on with this team. You've had you had Young who went to the 49ers, say, kind of throw some shade at the Washington Commanders, during some of his, uh, you know, uh, uh, post game chats and stuff. You've also had Montez Sweat last week say something about, how different it is for him to be playing in Chicago. Now, even within, you've seen Terry McLaurin, which I'll get into later on as my player matchup. He's also, not happy with the offense. He's the number one receiver, and they can't seem to get him the ball, even though it's a pass happy offense. That he's not getting the ball. So there's a lot of frustration within this organization, and I think at the end of the season, you're just going to see a clean house. One thing have heard, Gilbert, maybe you can say I'm right or wrong, but I've heard the reason they haven't fired anybody is because Eric Bieniemy is going to be the head coach. He'll be taking over for Ron Rivera, but there's a lot to clean up with this organization. And they finally got rid of Daniel Snyder after all the years, 20 years of just terrible product on and off the field. And now, you have a new ownership with Josh Harris Group. So I guess for them, and they have the number 4 pick right now. That's where they're at. But I think they're trying to get one of those top picks because I don't think they believe in Howe as their quarterback either. So I think they're really trying to get a quarterback, and I think it'll start with Eric Bieniemy as their head coach, from what
Yeah,
I've heard.
if they are trying to give it to Bieniemy, then that means he's doing something right behind closed doors because that offense is not good. And I get it; it's the crappy situation that he had to go into. He was trying to better on on himself, saying, "Well, I can't get a head coaching job," and people keep thinking I'm just kind of riding the coattails of the Chiefs with Mahomes and Reed. So I got to go do something here. And the only opening that he got was from Ron Rivera, and it just hasn't worked out. Like the offense is pretty bad. They have a lot of talented players, but they don't really do much. I think that the offensive line is kind of whatever. And for a minute, I think it stopped now. But for a minute, people kept trying to say that they like Sam Howell or that Sam Howell is a good quarterback and that he's playing well. I'm like, what are we seeing here? Are people just checking the stats at the end of the game? Like he got a couple garbage time touchdowns and he throws up a few more passing yards. Like he takes a lot of bad sacks. He gives you a killer mistake in every game. You know, he kind of reminds me of like Gardner Minshew. He could get hot at times, but I don't even think he's good as Minshew. So we're not gonna hear the last of Sam Howell. He's gonna be a good backup in the NFL. Probably fill in for a starter when they get hurt and win a couple games, and then it's gonna be a roller coaster like Baker Mayfield has and uh, quarterbacks like that. So you can't rely on a guy like that to be your franchise quarterback. But maybe they're seeing Bieniemy bringing out the best in a guy who was a 5th round pick a year ago. Saying, okay, cool, you do it with somebody like that. How about we draft you a Drake May or a Jaden Daniels or probably not Caleb Williams and see what you could do. But for right now, I haven't seen anything offensively that the enemy is doing, well. But it is a crappy situation, and maybe it's winning over the new ownership there. But it would not surprise me to just say anything that was a part of the old regime, clean it out, maybe even trade McLaurin and just start fresh. Because besides McLaurin, like I don't even know who you want to keep.
Yeah, and then the other thing too, Gilbert, we've talked about what we've seen with the Cowboys and Mike McCarthy, and what we've seen with the Chargers and Kellen Moore, and Kellen Moore leaves and the Cowboys offense gets better. But we haven't seen the same thing happen with the Chiefs, with Eric Bieniemy leaving
Yeah.
to take the job. And I think that's what's going to end up helping him is the fact that it looks like he's the fact that this is the first time that the Chiefs are struggling offensively is without Eric Bieniemy, because everybody always gave Andy Reid all the credit, and now that they're struggling, this might help. I'm not saying that it is, but the narrative helps you when you're trying to get these jobs, and maybe that's what it is for him. But it'll be interesting to see what happens with the Commanders, because honestly at this point they're just trying to finish out the season. And that was one of the comments that Montez Sweat said, is like over there they were just they when he got traded they were 3-5, and he was saying, hey, we everybody there was just looking forward to ending the season already, like getting the season over with. And it just tells you that even now, as coming off a bye, things aren't You know, they not only I don't know if it was Jack Del Rio, but Jack Del Rio is gone now, and now it leaves Ron Rivera, and I at this point you just have to pretty much say that he lost the locker room.
It could be maybe a thing where like the new ownership is just trying to like take it slowly. Like, okay, let's give the enemy a year, and if it doesn't work, we move on here because I'm sure there's a lot of things going on behind the scenes of how to kind of like take a franchise and operate it. Maybe they're focusing on the business side. And it's like how are we going to do a coaching search right now? We're trying to figure out the lay of the land. How do things work here in the NFL? And maybe it could be for the best. And I don't. This is probably a bad comparison, but I remember David Tepper just inherited Ron Rivera, kind of similar situation, and just kept them. It didn't work out. And obviously Tepper is very short temper. There you go. But sometimes these new owners got to learn. Okay, what got me money in a different field, it doesn't work that way here, and maybe the new ownership is trying to figure that out. Like, okay, you know what? Let's kind of take it slow. We don't want to be the next Daniel Snyder again, or even David Tepper, because the way he's been going. But it could be like, hey, the enemy's already here. People like the guy. People trust him. Let's see how it goes, and we can always pull the plug after a year. And it's becoming more common now where coaches get fired in a year. We already saw it twice this year with Frank Reich and well, Josh McDaniels got a year and a half, but Frank Reich got 1 year, Hackett got 1 year, and then McDaniels got a year and a half. So people are not that patient, but it also tells you, oh, cool, it's just a year. We can move on.
Yeah, and then it might also be the fact that Ron Rivera is well respected. I mean, what he has gone through the last 2 seasons with all the mess off the field, I think that's probably a reason why they've also kept him just out of respect. But who knows? We don't know how this is a new ownership. They can do whatever they want. They could have let him go already, but they've chose to keep him, and I'm sure he's going to be one of those that gets let's go at the end of the season. And then Gilbert switching over to the Rams. We talked about this in the post game show, and I just kind of wanted to bring it back up just because I after we kind of talked, I wanted to bring it up again just because I saw some numbers and I've listened to some people talk about it, and that has to do with the how good the draft has been for the Rams the last couple of seasons, especially in the middle rounds, as we talked about. And they brought it up in the broadcast where they featured all the the fifth round picks, like Kyren Williams, you have Puka Nacua, and other ones that have really done well, and we've seen. But one of the things that really stood out for me, Gilbert, is that the Rams have gotten 128 games this season out of their 14 rookies, and that's not even including Stetson Bennett, who hasn't even played one game, and so that's an average of 9 games per player, which tells you, as we look at both of these teams and where they're at, the Washington Commanders had 7 picks and have only gotten 50 games, a little bit over 50 games out of their players. So that tells you you're not only doubling it, and I get it. You had more shots at you had 14 guys, to get and play, but that's still really good. 128. That means that you're getting your players out there to play. And so my question, I know we talked about it last week, but we have to continue to talk about just less need, like finding guys, and not only that, but also the development of this team, and that's why they're 6-7, and they're in position to make a to make the playoffs.
Yeah, it's a franchise changing draft class. You got, Byron Young and you got Kobe Turner, Puka Nacua. Maybe it's a little too soon to put in Davis Allen in with that group, but I was very impressed with that one game. And, you didn't have Higby, you have no Hunter Long, and he steps up. But we saw Davis Allen in the preseason. He was doing well. So he could be another guy. So if he does it again, might as well throw him in the group too. And then obviously the year before, Kyren Williams, a 5th round pick, doing well. You had Kobe Turner before that. Even guys like Darion Kendrick, like he doesn't have the brightest future, but he's contributing from 2022. We still hadn't even got for 2023. Still haven't got to Tomlinson because he just doesn't get a lot of run, but maybe he could be a guy in the future. So, sometimes guys take long to develop. So 2022, 2023 draft class, a lot of them had played, and a good amount of them have been pretty big and impactful. I think 2023 is a little better. You got more people who like Puka Nacua is going to be a cornerstone player. So, and by the way, now that I think about it, does Puka Nacua always play without gloves? Like see him
That's
making those catches in Baltimore. Like wait, is that thing that did I just notice that? But that's pretty cool that he does that, especially maybe because it was cold out there. I'm like, what are you doing, Puka? Where are your gloves at? To catch everything without gloves. That's pretty cool. But he appears to be a cornerstone piece. Uh, I'm not sure. I feel like Kobe Turner in terms of like player who like who's better. I'm not saying position wise, because they play different positions. But maybe Kobe Turner might be kind of a little higher than Byron Young. I can't tell if Byron Young's like a guy who's gonna be a dude for reals or just a really solid starter. But that's still pretty good to get out of your 2 second round picks right at this point in their careers. And we'll see what happens to the draft. They keep hurting their draft stock, but uh, look at the Commanders. Like they got Emmanuel Forbes in the first round, and they're trying to figure out how to use them properly or get them on the field. So you can have a first round pick or not. You just got whatever picks you have, you better hit on them, and that is credit to Les Need. And that's why I'm not too harsh on McVay, because it was a lot of young players, and a lot of people kept making fun of the roster. And to get this out of them in year one with this new crew, they're doing pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, and you just keep going down the line too with Ernest Jones. I mean, how good has Ernest Jones been? And he's been dealing with a knee injury as well. So it just continues to tell you everything that they've done so far. I mean, Steve Avila, who we haven't even talked in the offensive line, is like they just plugged him in and he's ready to go. I mean,
Yeah, forgot about that second round pick. Yeah.
yeah, and that's the thing too, Gilbert. Like they didn't even have a first round pick, and look at what they turned out. I mean, it's been impressive just to see. All right, Gilbert, let's get to our player matchups to watch. Who do you got this week?
And just to correct my mistakes, Byron Young and Kobe Turner were third round picks, right?
Yes.
So there you go. And Steve Avila was the second round pick. So it makes the Rams look better. So they're definitely hitting. I can't believe I forgot about Avila. He's just been great. And off of that, like, the way they've evolved as this running scheme, the gap scheme, and kind of just attacking. And that's Avila. Like that's the reason why you go draft these guys, to make sure whatever you're gonna do for the future, they better come in and work off the scheme. And obviously linemen don't get a lot of love, but that's been pretty cool to see this running game with Kyren Williams. And they might have delivered the blueprint how to beat this Ravens defense. So shout out to Avila. I can't forget about the offensive lineman. But for player matches for me, Stafford, you've been dealing, you've been balling. Go destroy the secondary for the Commanders. Like they're allowing, 266 passing yards per game. That's the worst in the NFL. Go drop maybe 350 or 400 yards on this defense, and have it make it one of these days where you jump out to a 10-point lead. You don't look back. You keep building and building. You don't sweat. Maybe you're not even playing in the fourth quarter. Make Carson Wentz. There you go. Make Carson Wentz play against the former team for a revenge game, even though they're
Oh,
probably going to do the
okay.
work to beat them. So I totally forgot about that, and I'll keep mine simple. Yeah, go and just shred, pick them apart. That secondary is not good. They're very young. They're inexperienced, and again, mentally they're probably checked out. They're coming to LA. You got to win this game. Make it an easy victory.
Yeah, one of the things I was looking at about, how you were saying like, oh, they need defensive ends because they still have Jonathan Allen and Deron Payne. You still have two tackles there who they decided to pay, which is strange because usually the way you do it is you pay your defensive ends, your pass rushers, and but the league is changing now. We've talked about this during the offseason was everybody's paying their defensive tackles now. You've seen everybody getting paid. Now that's where the money is at. And in terms of their secondary, I thought, and I usually I tell you this, Gilbert. I like five teams to make the new teams to make the playoffs, and five teams who aren't gonna make it from the year before. And one of those teams was the Commanders. Is just looking at this roster, it was really good, and it just fell apart. And that this is where the difference between coaching really really it really makes a big difference. And Ron Rivera is you know probably won't get another coaching job, as a head coach. And it just tells you where you are with Sean McVay. And I know how there's been a lot of criticism for with Sean McVay this season. just with some of the, as you talked about it, his play calling, also his game management towards the end. But you can deal with that. The thing you can't deal with is losing the locker room, and I think you've also seen it. He took over for Jack Del Rio, and this defense has gotten worse. Gilbert, like I don't understand how you get rid of a guy, and usually like you see a little bit more effort from the players. But to your point, I think you should be able to shred this defense because they haven't made any adjustments. Every it seems like every time Ron Rivera tries to make a call, like either they blitz, they get burned on it. If he plays man, he gets burned on it. So every call he's made as a defensive coordinator, you've seen it against the Cowboys and against the Dolphins hasn't worked, and this just looks like a mismatch. But that's the thing where it kind of, I'm kind of worried too, because we saw all the upsets in week 14, and this is where you take the foot off the gas and you can get burned. And that would be my only concern here with what you said. But for me, Gilbert, I'm gonna go to the other side. I'm gonna go with Terry McLaurin versus Akilo Witherspoon. And so, kind of to add to the fire here, what I was just saying, McLaurin was held to 0 catches on 3 targets against the Dolphins, and he wasn't happy about it. He said, "I ran." He was asked after the game, he's like, "Hey, so what happened?" He's like, "I ran a lot of cardio. I'm going to continue to run my routes hard. At the end of the day, I'm not going to quit, but yeah, it's frustrating." And then I just want to give love to Akilo Witherspoon. Last year, he was with the Steelers. He had a bad hamstring, didn't play much, so he signed as a free agent. They took a chance on him, and he's been their best free agent signing. He's already has 3 interceptions, and every time they need a turnover, it seems he comes up big. So for me, I think they're gonna try to feed Terry McLaurin, so this is gonna be big for Akilo Witherspoon to have another one of his big games that he's had throughout the season.
Yeah, you got to feel for Terry McLaurin. Like he's a good wide receiver, but it's like you don't even know where to rank him in the NFL because he just doesn't have a good quarterback or a good offense, a good scheme, whatever it is. We're like, yeah, like we always forget about him when we come to these top 10 rankings because we just don't see him much, and it's not his fault. He's talented. He's great with the catch radius. He's not the biggest dude, but like he has good hands and crisp routes. So you know maybe they do him a favor and then traded him. They trade him in the offseason, but he already signed his contract and he's a good player. And if you draft a young quarterback, you need a good wide receiver. We're seeing what happened to Bryce Young. They trade DJ Moore to Chicago. He goes to Carolina. They got nothing there, and he's having a miserable rookie year. So maybe you got to keep McLaurin and then get a quarterback to help him out. Get a good duo there, and then thinking about the Commanders defense and the Rams defense, that kind of shows you how important coaching is and getting guys to buy in because like even ignore the fact that they started the year with Chase Young and Montez Sweat, Deron Payne and Jonathan Allen is still more talent than what we were thinking the Rams are going to have. Where Aaron Donald and a bunch of young guys, and these guys are balling out. The young guys, they're playing within the scheme. Yeah, it was a long day in Baltimore, but for the most part, they were doing their job and they're playing well. And you know sometimes you don't have talent, but you could coach guys and put them in positions to succeed, develop them, and then eventually they get better, they get confidence, and they do well. So, that tells you the difference between the Commanders and the Rams defense.
Yeah, I mean, great points by you. If you guys are watching, we're starting to see more and more people hop on. Don't be shy. Go ahead and leave us a comment. We'll try to get to you. All right, Gilbert. Our next thing is keys to this game. Where are you going for keys to the
Yeah.
for the Rams here?
You know what? I'll use this time, and it's going to be special teams. But a lot of people, and I get it. If you're a fan of the team, you're frustrated. But when we had the Rams post game show after they lost to the Ravens, I was more like, damn, that was a good game. The Rams should be proud of that effort, and the young guy stepped up. The veteran guy stepped up. The coaching was good, but people were frustrated with the special teams. And also, I get the officials. The officials are going to be a problem in most games nowadays. But special teams, not if you would have got one block or one tackle, get the guy down, give your offense a chance to win the game, they probably win that game. So special teams couldn't come through. and it was a reminder of what happened in Dallas. That was just a stinker of a performance for the special teams there. So it's been an issue all year long. So what I'm trying to say, we didn't really focus on the negatives on the recap because it was just a great game, a game that I think the Rams, like if the Rams would have won in an ugly fashion, I'm like, cool, they won. But this game was like, this is a really dangerous team. That's a good offense. So I was focused on that. But yeah, then you have the Sean McVay blunders in the opening drive and the final drive. The opening drive, they were running the ball and just saying, we're not gonna let you do what you do with your disguises in the passing game. We're just gonna run the football, make it obvious, and we're gonna keep doing it and doing it. And then they get to the red zone, they stop running the ball, they get a field goal. Then on the final drive of the game, they couldn't get the plays in. They're wasting a lot of time, and people who've been paying attention, like I guess that's kind of been the Sean McVay special, just very slow to get the plays in, and you shouldn't be doing that. And then you have a veteran quarterback in Stafford too, so clean up those mistakes there with the game management or getting the plays in and making sure it's the right tempo. We're like, okay, the running game is working. Don't go away from it. So figure that out in this game, and then also clean up the special teams, and you'll win this game pretty easily. But it's more like do that, and then you'll fix it for the bigger games.
Yeah, and then the game planning. We got a comment here, so let me get to it. We got Evan Holtz. It said it was a great game and either team could have won. Yeah, and I mean, and that's the thing when you're learning how to win. I understand you have guys like Cooper Kupp and Matthew Stafford and Aaron Donald, but you still have a young team. There's a lot of guys who are trying to get incorporated that you're trying to incorporate, and that's going to happen. And even I'm not going to make excuses about what happened with the communication, that kind of stuff, getting the play in. You should have gotten that fixed before you got to overtime, and it seems like they didn't at the beginning of overtime, so they also had problems there. And then in terms of special teams, as you brought up, it was great to see Lucas Habrasik have a big game, so that's big. But then now you lose Alex Ward, your long snapper, so that's going to be
Yeah.
something you also have to, you know, you, you're gonna have to get adjusted to a new long snapper. So there's also that. I know people don't want to talk about special teams because that's the third phase of your of the game. You have offense, that's the sexy part of defense. Hey, if you have a really good defense and you're happy with it, but when it comes to special teams, you want to have a good return. And we saw what's his name, and I don't I'm the punt returner, he muffed the ball twice and he got lucky that he Trammell, I Austin Trammell, I think is his name, he hopped back on the ball. That's another thing. I understand that it was raining and the ball is going to slip, but you gotta hold on to those. You gotta have a good punt return, a good kickoff return, but you can't. That's the thing too, Gilbert, is like when you have a good punter, like an Ethan Evans. He's gonna try to outkick the coverage, and sometimes when you don't give your returners enough time to get down there, it's gonna affect like. And so he's learning on the job too. He's a young guy. He's just been taught, hey, just boom the ball. But he's getting the coaching. He'll get there eventually. But those are the little things that you have to do to win these one score games. The good teams are the ones that are able. They're like, well, why are those teams in one score games? And it's because they're really good at winning those games. I was just seeing the Chiefs last season were 7-1 in one score games. Guess what? They're losing those games, those one score games this season. It's a process, and it's because they have young players too. The Chiefs do. Same thing with the Rams. They just have to learn how to close those games. And the same thing goes for Sean McVay. He has to, learn how to use his new players, guys like Kyren Williams. And the criticism is there, Gilbert, for a reason about running. You ran the ball on that first possession, beautifully. And then you get to the red zone and you decide to throw the ball three straight times, and then you're having to kick a field goal. So to your point, I'm with you. It's going to be special teams in this game.
Yeah, and just to add one thing, like that's the downside of having so many young players, playing on defense or offense that they don't get to focus on special teams. And usually when you have a veteran roster, you let the young guys worry about special teams, full time, and they get better at it. You get a couple guys, and that's the other part of it too. Like you also get a couple veterans who are the leaders of special teams. Well, this year, some of these leaders on special teams had to play like a Roseboom, guys like that who were finally got an opportunity because his roster changed so much. So they went from being a special teams ace to playing more defensively or offensively, and then but you're also needing the young guys because you're doing such a crazy thing with your roster, and they're not learning. And then also you got a new special teams coach this year too, so that's why it's affecting them right now. And that's one of the cost cutting moves that you know we were all a little bit critical of Les because he wasn't really doing much or getting rid of people. But to his credit, he was patient with his process. It's going to pay out. It's going to work out, and it's doing well right now. It's going to be better in 2024. But these are the consequences of having a kind of like a restart year where you need to have these young guys play, but you're kind of ignoring special teams at the same time. And that's why they went with what young kicker, young long snapper, a young punter, and for the most part, it's been working. But these mistakes are coming at the worst times.
Yeah, and I mean they didn't sign anybody, in free agency. I think it took them weeks before they finally, signed somebody, and that's because they were going to take this as a gap year. And then your development works, and then you're like, "Oh, we didn't take care of our special teams as you pointed out as well." So, and then there was that one play too, Gilbert. I as you were talking, I was reminded where they could have had the ball at the 1 yard line. They would have pinned the Ravens, but the guy, couldn't stop in time, and so he went over, and you ended up putting the Ravens at the 20-yard line. So it's the little things that they'll get better at, but that's part of the process of when you're trying to bring in a bunch of young guys and they're playing out of their mind, and it's gonna cost you, and it cost them against the Ravens. For me, Gilbert, I'm gonna just keep it simple as I've been for the last couple of weeks. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Continue to feature the run with Kyren Williams and Puka Nacua in the passing game. The we've kind of seen that now. I That Ravens game was the first time in a while where both guys got off. Where it was all three of them actually. It was Puka Nacua, Kyren Williams, and Cooper Kupp. They just continue to do that. It's been great seeing them feature Puka because it's all opened up things for Cooper Kupp now. And then Kyren Williams, I mean, he's been a menace on the run and coming out of the backfield catching passes. So they've been scoring 30 points since Kyren got back off the bye. And I say just continue to, all the changes that you made during the bye, just continue to do that. And I mean, I don't see why you can't score 45 points just like the Dolphins and the Cowboys did.
Yeah, no, definitely. I would like to see him do 51 again, like you mentioned in the Broncos game last year. It's one of these games you got to just kind of handle business. And you know, I'm trying to think of a game where maybe they were the heavy favorites, and that they this season, and where they actually handle business. Let me check real quick, Vic,
The
if you
only
don't
one I
mind.
can think of was
Cardinals,
maybe
right?
the Cardinals at
Yeah,
home.
yeah. They spanked them in Arizona, and then you got them at home. And but that's might have been like the only time they were heavy favorites to win a game. So go back to what you did to Arizona and just kind of have that mentality, and because you know like I feel like the Cardinals are playing hard because they already got their new coach. It's kind of okay. This is what we have. Whereas year one, we know what we have here as a regime. So let's play hard. With the Commanders, the opposite. It's the end of the regime. It's kind of like they're not going to be here. We don't care. So it's going to be a bunch of changes. So mentally, they're out of it. Yeah, they're having a bye week, but they're going to LA still. And this is when you got to take care of business.
Yeah, the Commanders are like that student, whether you're whatever you're in high school, junior high, or college, and that your semester is almost over, and you're just waiting to get done with. Those last couple of weeks are just like, just get here already, please, because I want to get the hell out. I'm done with school already. So that's where the Commanders are at. They got 4 games to go, and they just want to finish out the season, and hopefully that's the mentality that they come in with against the Rams, and they're just looking forward to 2024 and the Rams take advantage of it. But all right, Gilbert, let's get to our betting spotlight. The Rams are 6.5 point favorites, and the over under has gone down. I remember I saw it at the beginning of the week at 50, It's
Mm.
gone down to 49. So it looks like a lot of people are starting to bet the over on this game. What's the right side of this game for you?
Yeah, I'll give my picks in a bit, but the 6.5 points, I got no problem with that. And then the over under is pretty high, the 49 total points there. But like I mentioned at the start of the show, the Commanders have allowed 45 points in back to back games. 3 consecutive games have allowed 31 points plus, and then on the other side, the Rams have scored 31 points in 3 consecutive games, or at least 30, something like that. But yeah, so that's a good little recipe there for the over. And say the Rams get 35 something, so you need another 15 points. Well, Sam Howell knows how to get touchdowns in garbage time, so give me the over right here.
Yeah, and I need a McLaurin touchdown because I have him on my fantasy team. I drafted McLaurin, and so I'm kind of hoping. So I'm with you. I like the over here as well, and then the 6.5. I mean, I think we're both in agreement here that we see the Rams blowing out the Commanders. It's gotten better for us when we both picked the Rams. We went against them last week, and it was the right call with against the Ravens. And then this week, I mean, I don't see it. I'm a little fearful just because of the Commanders coming off a bye, but everything just points to the Commanders just they're done. Like that team has given up on that coaching stuff, and they're just trying to finish out the season. All right, Gilbert, what's your game prediction for this game? Rams
Yeah,
and Commanders.
if you're watching currently, give us your game prediction, your final score of Commanders versus the Rams. I'm guessing we're all going to be picking the Rams here, so don't be shy. Get in the comments and let us know your final score here. But for me, I will take the Rams 38 to, let's go with 17 Commanders. So what is that? A 31-point beat down. And I'm trying to remember now. I feel like I'm on a little winning streak here because I picked the Ravens last week, but I picked the Rams against the Browns, and then
The Cardinals won. We both picked
yeah,
the we both picked them.
I probably got the Seahawks one wrong. So maybe you're in a better streak than I am.
Yeah.
But yeah, 38-17 Rams over the Commanders.
Yeah, I picked the Rams against the Seahawks. I picked the Cardinals, the Rams against the Cardinals, and then what
What
was
about
the
Green Bay?
yeah, no, that was the last one.
Okay.
I believe that was the last one where I was wrong.
You're on a
But
4-game winning streak. I'm on a 3-game winning streak.
yeah, and I'm gonna roll with the Rams here. I think they win 40-21. I just don't think that as I mentioned before, I don't know how they keep this game close. Both teams are heading in opposite directions, and I'm with you. I kind of hope that we get to see Carson Wentz. I know a lot of people who have joined House of Horns from South Dakota or North Dakota. Um, they want to see Carson Wentz. They're really happy about him being the backup quarterback. So hopefully we see a revenge game with them pulling Matthew Stafford in the second half, and we get to see him and make his debut as a Rams backup quarterback.
Yeah, and before people make fun of me about my terrible math, that's mine would be a 21-point beatdown. So let's make 31-point beatdown happen. Let me change mine to 38-7. I know how to count, but I realized that I was
There
doing it wrong. But 38-7, how about that for an actual 31-point beatdown? But yeah, you got 40, you got a 40 burger here, so that's a very high scoring here. And yeah, I would
Yeah,
like to see Carson Wentz on the fourth quarter. That'd be pretty cool to see him.
yeah, especially against his former team, with everything that happened there. But yeah, Gilbert. So that's all we have. Make sure you stay locked in. If the Rams continue to win, we didn't mention this, but the Packers losing on Monday raised their chances of getting into the playoffs. I think it went from
Oh yeah.
35 to 38. So, things continue to pick up for the Rams. They just got to win. I think they just have to take it one game at a time. I hate using that cliche, but it's true. You got to take care of business, starting with the Commanders, because in order to get in, you can't overlook these teams. And so I'm sure Sean McVay's going to have them ready to go. But yeah, that's all I have for you today. Rams and Commanders. And then if you want to promote us going to the Super Bowl for Radio Row,
Yeah.
let me pick this up. Where is it? Go ahead. There we go.
Yeah, and before I get to that, like, yeah, I feel like we didn't even get to the playoff picture because I'm like, they're coming off a loss. They got to handle business here, and I think they'll be fine. But the Packers are playing the Buccaneers, a pretty tough matchup there. The Seahawks are playing the Eagles, and then the Vikings are playing the Bengals. So it could be 0-3 for those teams this week. And then if the Rams handle business against a terrible team, like last week, the Rams had the tough schedule, and that's why they're a game out. But they got help from the Giants there. Tommy DeVito helping out, so you gotta thank him there. But yeah, I could easily see the Buccaneers being the Packers. It's in Lambeau, could be a little tough there. Uh, Carson Wentz could be the next franchise quarterback. I don't know about that. I know people really like Carson Wentz still. I don't know why. I think he could be a pretty good backup quarterback. But I somebody actually Gary Klein of the LA Times, I think he asked Stafford today, what do you think about possibly playing in the Super Bowl in 2027? And obviously he's like, that's a long time. But what if Stafford's around for another 4 or 5 years? You don't know that, Evan. But I like your comment though.
Yeah, and he could end up being one of those guys that kind of like what we saw with Mayfield last year, where he comes in and then he ends up getting a job somewhere else. You never know. I mean, teams are always taking a chance on backup quarterbacks. I think you're going to see a bunch of backup quarterbacks get starting jobs next season, Gilbert, just because you have guys like Jake Browning. You have we've also seen why am I blanking on his name? I was just thinking about him from the Browns. What is
Oh,
his
Joe
name?
Flacco.
Joe Flacco coming off the bench, and we'll see what happens. But yeah, he said you're right as well. Evan Holt said
Yeah,
you're
I'm not
right.
sure about Stafford playing that long, but he's looking good though right now. So, but it's funny, like that Green Bay game, like they had no Stafford, no backup quarterback, and Brett Rippon, and here we are, Stafford dealing, and then you're feeling comfortable about the backup in case of emergency. So things change really quickly. The NFL is so weird. I know you got to get going, but sometimes I feel like why are we doing analysis? Like the Giants are one game behind the playoff picture. Like the
The
Patriots beat the
Bears.
Steelers, the Bears are in it. The Titans beat the Dolphins. Like who the hell knows every single week? I'm not saying the one time you should feel confident is the Commanders though. The Commanders are just terrible, but you just never know. And but I feel pretty. I'll say 99% this team's gonna roll over. But the Titans and the Giants and the Bears, the Patriots, they keep fighting. So I'm not trying to scare anybody, but it's a weird league.
Yeah, and like that's why I felt kind of vindicated watching that game because I that's the one game that does make me nervous outside of the 49ers game is the one having to go on the East Coast and playing, the Giants. I just they've won I think 3 in a row now, the
Yeah.
Giants have. So I've stated like this was a couple weeks ago too. I said I that's the one that makes me a little nervous of the winnable games is that one having to go to the Giants. I think the Rams can take care of business against the Commanders and the Saints, but we'll see. As you say, anything can happen any given Sunday for a reason. So,
Yeah.
but yeah,
Maybe in a couple of weeks, as the Giants keep winning out with Tom DeVito, that game's for like implications for both sides. That'd be very weird. But yeah, first handle the Commanders and then get there. It's gonna be a short week. Especially that's another point. You better beat down this team early because you had a short week with the Saints,
that's a
and
good point.
you want to have a quarter off to get your body right. But we got to get going, Victor. Anything else?
No, that's all I have for you. I'm trying to think. We have one more comment here as we go. He's like, from Evan Holtz. Thanks, guys. You're the best. Thank
Thank
you.
you,
No,
Evan.
thank you, and thanks to all the new subscribers that we've gotten. We're up to 746. We're trying to get to 1,000 so we can give away this Puka Nacua jersey. We really want to give away this Puka Nacua jersey. You guys have been awesome, especially this season with the turnaround for the Rams. I know last season it was our first year we were learning here on the job, and it wasn't a good season for the Rams, and so we're happy to be on this run with you guys and giving you as much information each week, previewing, being on there for the post game show. So we can't wait. And then next week I think we're gonna do this show, what are we thinking, either Monday or Tuesday, because it's a
Yeah.
short week. So you'll get a post game show from us right after the game, maybe 20-30 minutes after the game, when this game against the Commander ends, and then we'll turn around and preview the game against the Saints either on Monday or Tuesday. It'll be live just like this, so If you missed this, make sure you hop on the comments. We'll respond. I know there's a couple of commenters that were, why aren't you guys answering my questions? We'll get to them eventually. Sometimes we get a little busy. We got other things going on, but if you guys comment, we'll get to it. And we really appreciate everybody who comments. Even it doesn't matter. Like we just want to be able to get your feedback, even if you just are thanking us and saying you're the best.
Yeah.
It's great to see, Gilbert.
Yeah, and one final thing, if you want to support the channel or the Compas on the Beat network, uh, when you watch us live, you could do a super sticker, a super like. You don't have to give much, but anything will help out because we're always trying to get more equipment, and we're also trying to get to Super Bowl Radio Row, and that requires housing and a lot of equipment to have remotely to give you some good interviews. And we'll definitely do a House of Horns live from Super Bowl Radio Row, but you can help out with on these live shows with a super sticker or super whatever they are. I know they're just kind of options for the live, but and then also check out the link in the description. It's a PayPal link for donations. You want to help out, no pressure. I know it's a very expensive month. December is tough. I got 3 siblings with birthdays in December. Then you got Christmas, so I get it. But keep it in your mind. You want to help out, support us. Check out the link in the description. But just saying things like Evan just said really makes her day, and it makes it feel like, okay, this extra hour that we're putting in here or a couple hours of just hanging around and giving you guys knowledge about the Rams, it makes it worth it. So we appreciate all the positive feedback.
Yeah, and it's like I said, the way this channel has grown in the past year has been impressive. I mean, shout out to Ram fans. I know people are always getting on Ram fans. Who's like, "Whoa, who's there at SoFi?" But honestly, this has been really cool to see, and like we're building a little community here. Like I'll post something and I get feedback right away. So shout out to you guys. And then that's all I have for you,
Yep.
Gilbert.
Cool. Well, let's get going on to week 15, Rams versus Commanders. Better handle business. That should be the motto, or stand on business, as the kids like to say nowadays. But let's get going. On that note, ya nos vamos, pues, vámonos.